purge of Khazarian mobsters intensifies as Trump is kept safe in Asia. There can be no doubt whatsoever that the worldwide purge of Khazarian mafias now has reached a tipping point of no return, with arrests and purges in the US and Saudi Arabia. In the Middle East, Iran-linked Hezbollah now effectively rules Lebanon after Saudi puppet Prime Minister Saad Hariri was forced to resign. His resignation was followed by a purge of hundreds of princes, generals, religious leaders, and others by de facto Saudi king Mohammed bin Salman. This purge was especially important because it cut off one of the last major remaining sources of Bush-Clinton mafia money and power. Many of the princes purged, now homosexually bond with the members of the Bush family and their top lieutenants when they study in the United States, according to confessions of Kay Grich, wife of a Skull and Bone Society member, and others. This is how Pentagon sources describe the unfolding crackdown. The Saudi purge of the Bush-Clinton pedo-terror factions, including Osama bin Laden's brother, Bag bin Laden, and anti-Trumper Prince al-Walid bin Talal, is timed to the Paradise Papers leak, the arrest of Tony Podesta, and the surrender of Hillary Clinton and John Podesta. Tony Podesta is a powerful Washington lobbyist whose brother John was campaign manager of Hillary Clinton and chief of staff for Bill Clinton. Al-Walid bought large shareholdings of Rockefeller's Citibank. The ramification of this leak, arrests, and purges reach out in many directions. After shocks, further arrests and further purges are sure to be felt and seen in the Middle East, Japan, Europe, and the US over the coming days. Already, Trump Commerce Secretary Wilbur Ross has been implicated. So has Canadian magnate Stephen Brofman, whose family made its fortune selling booze to AI Capone. This name are just the tip of the iceberg. The start of the purge was timed to coincide with Trump's visit to Asia, so as to be able to more easily protect Trump and his family from retaliatory action, say Pentagon and CIA sources. However, in a sign that the battle is far from over, two separate warnings were conveyed to this writer last week concerning Trump. One was a source close to North Korea, and the other, a veteran CIA officer stationed in Asia. The North Korean linked source said that Trump provoked a war against Korea, he would not leave Asia alive. The CIA sources, for his part, said, "I heard whisper in the shadows that there's a special surprise waiting for him in Vietnam, and it is not his meeting with Putin on the sidelines." From an Asian perspective, the purge of Prince Al-Walid is interesting because he's the main actor behind the $1 billion Saudi fund for Korean Japanese tycoon Masayoshi Son. Son is the guy who bought the Rockefeller-linked Fortress investment group. Fortress owns Musashi Engineering, the company that makes the voting machines that steal elections from Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and his party. This is what CIA in Asia had to say about him. Regarding Masayoshi Son, expect a heart attack or reach a suicide from the stress, of course. This could be a Christmas or New Year gift to the people of Japan. For now, though, the Japanese slave political establishment, sensing that their survival is at stake, is working as hard as it can to suck up to Trump as he visits this country. Sources close to the Emperor family says the Emperor rewarded Trump with the bond worth 1 quadrillion yen courtesy of Henry Kissinger. This may buy time for the Washington, D.C. corporation, of which Trump is president. But its real fate is more likely to be decided in Vietnam when Trump meets with Russian President Vladimir Putin and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Pentagon sources think Xi is now the true strongman of China and offer the following analysis of his post-Congress position. It appears that Chairman Xi is now a paramount leader with no anointed successor in control of 5 votes on the Politburo Standing Committee, since Han Zheng is the only guy from the Shanghai or Jiang faction, and Prime Minister Li Gangshan is from the Hu faction. The other 4 guys are colorless and loyal to Xi, even though their roles under Hu and Zhang. Wang Humin appears to provide continuity since he also worked for both Zhang and Hu. However, Chinese intelligence sources tell this writer that Xi Jinping was chosen as the leader because he looked tall and good in the G20 photo shoots, but that he's just a figurehead for collective decision-making. The overall balance in the Politburo Standing Committee is 2 votes for Southern China, 2 for Coastal China, and 3 for the North and the interior. In any case, the new Chinese regime is ready to take action, and if the world is lucky, they will ignore the Khazarian bluff about starting World War III and will force bankruptcy of the world, disrupting and terrorizing the DC Corporation. Let's see what happens in Vietnam on November the 10th and 11th and keep our fingers crossed. The owner of the DC Corporation, the Federal Reserve Board, has no more Khazarians on its board of directors now that Janet Yellen, Stan Fishers, and now Goldman Sachs New York Fed Chief William Dudley have been forced out. The new non-Khazarian management of the Fed will be left holding the bag because the system they are talking about is collapsing, whether they wish it or not. In October, the first month after the U.S. corporate government failed to meet its September 30th payment deadline, U.S. government debt rose by $200 billion in a single month, while 960,000 people left the workforce. The same government is pretending its wholly owned Puerto Rico subsidiary has no electricity because of a hurricane, and not because it's unable to pay its electricity bills. Meanwhile, despite a collapsing real economy, the stock market keeps reaching new highs, thanks in large part to buying by Rothschild-owned Swiss central bank. It also appears that Khazarians are running out of places from which to steal gold. Remember how the Canadian government announced its gold reserve ran out in March of 2016? Well, it appears they have resorted to selling fake gold since then, given that the Royal Canadian Mint has been caught selling a fake gold bar. Don't forget about U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin tweeting from Fort Knox on the day of the August 21st solar eclipse that he's glad gold is safe, without offering an ounce of proof that this was true. The sooner the U.S. military and agency reboot the entire U.S. government structure, hopefully with the Canadian help, the less the ultimate pain will be. In any case, the U.S. military and agency white hats are definitely continuing their purge of Khazarian mob influence. Pentagon sources say the charges leveled against former Trump campaign manager Paul Manafort for failing to register as a foreign agent may be a new normal to shut down the lobbyists and Jewish organizations like the AIPRC for acting as unregistered foreign agents of Israel. Also, the purge of Hollywood is starting to snowball. Here's how a Pentagon source summed up the situation. Harvey morphed into Peter Wade, as Kevin Spacey was exposed as pedo who also flew on Jeff Epstein's plane, the Lolita Express, with Bill Clinton. Spacey was forced to come out of closet as gay, to conflict the LGBT with pedos, to stop the Khazarian normalization of homos, pedos, and pederasties. The sources continued by noting that, after Harvey Weinstein, punishment was fast and furious as Netflix fired Spacey from House of Cards. CBS may remove Khazarian actor Jeremy Piven from the TV drama Wisdom of the Crowd or cancel the show. Another Khazarian Predator producer-director Brad Renate lost his Warner Brothers deal and was kicked off the studio, lot of sexual assault. According to U.S. Naval Intelligence, the real force behind the purge of Hollywood has been the NSA, which has been quietly informing victims of pederasty that they can provide proof to back up their accusations against their tormentors. Now that Washington, D.C. politicians, academia, and Hollywood are being purged from satanic Khazarian gangster control, we are sure the medical and pharmaceutical establishments will be next on the list. A heavy-duty raid on American Medical Association headquarters with a special focus on cancer-related information would be a very good place to start. On this front, we understand that Bill Gates has already been seen like a canary under special custody. It's certain that the war against the genocidal Satan-worshipping Khazarian mob is not over yet, but it is no longer possible to deny that they are losing and doomed. They have been warned to surrender or die. We expect both to happen in increasing quantities before the nightmare ends and humanity is freed.